Good afternoon. This is the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session. It is Thursday, September 7th, 2023. It is 3:01 p.m. This session is set to go until 4 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue Southeast, room 110. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menzer. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and Assistant County Manager Rob Felder is excused for this meeting. Today we have staff presenting, and we have from Community Planning and Economic Development, Exploring Skookumchuck Water Rights Briefing. And so if we'll go ahead and do introductions and then we can get started.
Great. I'm Ashley Wright, Community Planning Manager.
Kevin Hansen, County Hydrogeologist.
I'm Brian Benjamin, Associate Planner.
And I'm Aaron Torman, Water Resources Utility Planner over at Public Works.
Yep. Okay if I kick it off, Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, this is kind of a unique briefing. What we're really doing today is presenting an opportunity for the board to consider and provide direction to staff in terms of scoping a potential acquisition of water rights. So this is also a great opportunity for some of our fresher faces in Public Works and Community Planning to take the lead on presenting some background information, presenting some options for the board to consider with future scoping. And then really at the end is just looking for that scoping direction. Both Kevin and myself are here to support Brian and Aaron, but at this point I'm gonna hand it over to them.
I'm going to share my screen. It's online. All right, just a second here. All right, thank you, County Manager Chavez and Ashley. Good afternoon, Chair Mejia and members of the board. For the record, I am Brian Benjamin, Associate Planner with the Community Planning Division. And today's presentation addresses a potential water rights purchase opportunity in the Chehalis River Basin associated with the planned closure of the Centralia steam plant. We will start the presentation with background on the water rights that are being marketed, then provide an overview of the purchase opportunity, followed by a review of the options available to scope purchase, and conclude with a review of anticipated next steps in the process. We know this is a relatively new topic and want to leave as much time for questions as possible. The water rights associated with the planned closure of the Centralia steam plant are located within the Chehalis Basin and are currently being held in a water bank operated by the steam plant's owner, a company called TransAlta. TransAlta created a water bank to reserve water rights for potential future plant operation and made a portion of these rights available for sale on the open market. Currently, about 2,650 acre-feet of water is available for purchase, with a per acre foot cost of $2,750, representing a one-time flat fee at the time of purchase. The amount, low cost, and one-time payment structure of this purchase opportunity makes it a once-in-a-generation opportunity. In comparison, staff overview of recent water rights purchases by other entities in Washington indicated that comparable water rights typically come to market at around $10,000 to $25,000 per acre foot, and often with ongoing maintenance costs associated with those water rights in perpetuity. If acquired, these rights have a potential to be a low-cost option to meet a variety of planning goals, like public water system mitigation and streamflow restoration, with specific funding mechanisms for purchase identified. Purchase of these rights by other communities in the watershed is already a proven concept. The cities of Centralia and Chehalis are under contract to purchase about 6,720 acre-feet of TransAlta water rights as a part of the city's joint approach to regional water source management. Staff has identified 3 options for potential scopes of purchase. The first option, and smallest in scope, would be to purchase about 200 acre-feet of water rights to mitigate for the Grand Mound public water system. The conservative cost estimate for a 200 acre-foot purchase is about $690,000. The second option would focus on meeting state mandated Streamflow Restoration Act offsets for permit exempt well installations in the watershed. A purchase for permit exempt well mitigation could account for 350 acre feet of offset benefits up to 505 acre feet of offset benefits, depending on the geographic extent targeted for purchase. A purchase targeting all forecasted permit exempt wells in the watershed could cost about $1.7 million. The third option, long-term water allocation, is the largest in scope and would establish a program focused on fostering integration between goals and policies for land use and water resource management. For example, this kind of program could be used to ensure that water rights are available for future permit-required mitigation for public water systems, to generate interest in cluster developments by having water rights available for Class A water systems, and to promote improvements and efficiencies in irrigation and other projects protecting sustainability of agriculture. Any portion of available TransAlta water rights could be purchased to seed a program for long-term water allocation, with a maximum purchase of about 1,945 acre feet of water, totaling about $5.35 million. Moving on for more detail on our first option, TransAlta water rights are low cost and a viable option for mandated permit required mitigation for the Grand Mound water system. And staff would like to highlight that there is existing dedicated funding for Grand Mound system mitigation through the county's capital improvements program. Erin Tormanen, Water Resource Utility Planner for the Department of Public Works, is with us today to provide a comparison between this TransAlta water rights purchase and the existing agreement for mitigation reclaimed water. And up to Erin for the next slide.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Aaron Tormanen. I'm a utility planner in the technical services group over at Public Works. I'm going to be talking about how a water bank purchase may pertain to our Grand Mound water system. So our current water rights agreement with the Department of Ecology stipulates that by 2025, the county is expected to be producing Class A reclaimed wastewater as mitigation due to a past assumption that the wells could be negatively impacting stream flows in Prairie Creek, which is a tributary to the Chehalis River. Ongoing monitoring has suggested that flows in Prairie Creek are heavily influenced by rainfall in the rainy season rather than groundwater, and the stream goes completely dry during the dry season and much of the year. This means that infiltrating reclaimed wastewater into the aquifer would likely provide little to no benefit to stream flows in Prairie Creek. So we're working with our consultants to come to a new agreement with Ecology in which the county would make a one-time purchase of approximately 200 acre feet of water from the TransAlta water bank instead of producing reclaimed water. This new agreement would be much more financially feasible. A conservative estimate has it costing, like Brian mentioned, a one-time payment of $690,000, possibly less. This is compared to the approximately $5 million in cost to construct a reclaimed water facility and the annual cost of at least $100,000 a year to operate and maintain it. Plus, the water bank purchase would also provide more stream flow benefit to the Skookumchuck, another tributary of the Chehalis River. So this chart up on the screen illustrates a comparison between the existing agreement and our new proposed agreement. Before I pass it over to Brian, I'll open it up for questions relating to the public works side of things.
Questions, go ahead.
What does a home use? Average?
I'm not honestly sure. I would have to get back to you on that. Kevin might have a good answer.
It's about a quarter of an acre foot,
Per year?
0.25 acre feet per year on average, yes, sir.
And is this, who's receiving the money from these purchases?
From the purchase of the water bank,
If the county bought
it
so
would
many
be,
acre feet, who gets the money?
it would be
TransAlta?
TransAlta,
It's TransAlta.
Not Ecology.
not Ecology, no.
And why is it that they're not putting them on the retail market?
TransAlta.
Pardon?
TransAlta.
Yeah, Kevin has actually had conversations, if you don't mind sharing what.
Sure, I talked to Cody Duncan, the general manager, and he said that they are on the open market. There's no cattle rush to the gate on this one. They have not had anybody really lined up to buy them yet, except Centralia and Chehalis.
Didn't I hear something like that 10 times what's been offered here?
I haven't heard that.
Oh, you mean cost-wise?
Yeah.
Oh, no, amount, not cost. So they have bought 3 times, or they're in agreement to buy 3 times the acre feet, but not costs. Their cost per acre foot.
Okay,
No, I mean,
Oh,
earlier we mentioned that if we had to mitigate in other ways, it would cost much, much more. This is a tiny
yeah, and I
fraction.
thought it was like 10 times the 2,700 or something like that.
Yeah, the Rochester Pond project, across from the school, that's about $50,000 an acre foot, as opposed to this, which is 2,750. This is really a cheap mitigation.
And so lack of purchasing, okay, so we don't pay any attention to it. We run up against the possibility of we can't do more, say in Grand Mountain as an example. How about if somebody buys water rights, or the county, I mean, are they assessed geographically? Or can that be mitigation for the Deschutes River at some point?
It has to be in the Chehalis Basin.
Everything has to be maintained within the Deschutes River.
Yeah, in fact, it has to be at or downstream of the point.
I mean, with the Chehalis River.
Scoots, yeah.
That's why that's why there aren't so many people, even though the price is cheap, because there's only a limited players that can use it.
But
We're one
when
of
you
those.
talk about Prairie Creek and I guess Scatter Creek's in there somewhere, isn't
It
it?
is, but it's farther to the north. It's outside.
It's outside, I thought it flowed into the Chehalis too.
It does, farther downstream, yeah.
Well, anyway, both of them dry up every year, right? They've never not dried up every year as far as I know. So I'm trying to equate that to the reality of, okay, we don't have any frogs living in there in October when it's dry. So why are you contemplating buying water to mitigate that? What are we mitigating by doing that?
Yeah, on the left.
Yeah,
We are required to do mitigation by building a reclaimed water facility.
I know, but I'm trying to figure out, cause it doesn't run all the time anyway, so what's the deal? Sometimes it dries up in July, sometimes in September. I'm just trying to figure out the why.
So, if I understand, the Grand Mountain utility takes water from the ground,
Yep,
and based on the Hearst decision, there is limit as to what we can do that. So Ecology has put a condition that we need to mitigate all the water that we take out of the ground to use on the Grand Mountain. And what they said now, the way you have to mitigate, you need to produce a Class A
Recharge.
reclaimed water as a result of treating the water on the wastewater facility. So that is the current condition that we have. We take water out of the ground, we use it to potable water. There is restrictions to how much water we can take, so the only Ecology is saying, okay, the way you need to mitigate that impact is you need to produce Class A reclaimed water out of your wastewater facility.
in an equal
and-
amount.
And put it in the ground.
Yeah.
And you heard, so that it costs us $5 million. So the benefit is for 690,000, we can alleviate.
Instead of
building
5
this-
million.
Yeah,
Instead of 5 million.
so that's really
No, I mean, I'm not questioning whether
that's
it's a
really
good
the-
deal.
That's really the
I'm trying to
rationale
figure
behind
out the
this.
legality of why.
So this is the graphic that really tells the story.
But you're kind of mixing option 1 and option 2, because this is about just our water right condition in Grand Mountain for just being able to hook people up. The Hearst decision is about the next piece, is when, then as we go ahead and permit people to drill permit exempt wells, we gotta mitigate for that under the Hearst decision.
Right.
And that would be the option 2. element.
And that's why I asked that question about a house, and it's a 1/4 acre foot a year, right? So would we pass that on if we were to make a purchase, $2,700 or whatever? Is that what you're talking about? I guess, something like that, wouldn't it?
Per acre foot.
Per acre foot. So that would do 4 homes. So would we sell that to a potential home builder that's gonna have a exempt well? So for 1/4, I mean, the 4 of them, we could do 4 houses with 1 acre foot, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Can I? answer
Oh,
that?
yeah, sure.
Political compromise wasn't, it's not a fee for, it's like, the political compromise was county gets to keep issuing permits based on permit exempt wells. And we have to have this plan, this watershed plan with a series of projects that's in the aggregate gonna mitigate the total quantity of what we've projected we're gonna extract from the permit exempt wells.
Right.
And then what the projects are gonna produce in the aggregate. It's not a home by home type of,
Well, I'm
sell
just
you the
trying to
right.
simplify that so that
but this
if we
gets,
were
this
trying to
would get us,
recover,
this would get us on option 2, would get us a long way toward being able to.
that'd get us 800
Do you want to,
homes.
would it be appropriate to move to option 2 and then we can
Yeah,
at least
show
a
the two.
broader picture?
I'm just, no, I'm not disagreeing or anything on anything, I'm trying to figure out, okay, if we do this, how do we recover our cost? That's all, do we
So
sell that to the,
Yeah.
with the building permit?
there are different funding mechanisms for each of the options, at least that we're putting before you. So for this first one, it's money, and correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, that's already been allocated in the CIP budget because Public Works was already, in an agreement to build this reclaimed water facility. So money, that would be the money that would be used to fund this one. And then if you wanna move to option 2, there's a different funding mechanism, that wouldn't necessarily equate to charging individual, homeowners.
So, maybe Commissioner, if I may, perhaps don't think in terms how we can recover that investment. It's how we can offset the investment.
Okay, and that makes sense, I mean, it's a good
Offset-
buy in the
it's-
scheme of
it's
things.
offsetting what we are required to do with that less costly alternative.
Yeah, but we're using tax dollars if we do this.
Well,
When
we have to use tax dollars to do
But
the
we could
required-
recover for the taxpayer, for the person that builds the house. I'm talking about one house as an example. 200 acre feet gives you 400 or 800 homes. So when we issue permits, we could recover. I'm not saying we'd get it now, but 10 years down the
Well,
road,
I
we've
mean,
recovered.
Yeah, connection fees are part of the whole
Yeah.
process.
Commissioner, the ratepayers are gonna recover the piece of this associated with the Grand Mound system. That's gonna be passed along to ratepayers as part of the rates charged to people in the Grand Mound system. In other words, that's encapsulated within the Grand Mound system.
Yeah.
Option 2, we have no immediate fee structure for recovering on. We get $150 net from the fee we collect at the permit desk, and that's what we're using for ongoing operations. But there's no.
That's out of the 500,
For permitted wells.
out of the 500, right?
That's right.
Okay.
These are not mutually exclusive, right? These are just, we
No.
could do all 3.
You
we
could do
one,
all 3, you
one
could
and
just
three,
do
2 and 2,
1.
1 and 2.
So where are government entities getting the money to do this? From REIT 2?
No, we have,
I just wondered, I mean-
that's scheduled as part of the fees of the Grand Mountain area, correct?
I believe the reclaimed water facility project was refunded, if I'm
It's free
correct.
too?
If I'm looking at the right
Okay,
project in the proposed CIP, it's REIT,
Mhm.
okay,
Is it REIT 1 or REIT 2?
free too.
it's REIT 2.
And that doesn't translate to this
So-
because it's not a capital facility or something?
Well, is building the water system for reclaimed water is free too.
That's an infrastructure project,
I
clearly.
am not sure if REIT 2 will
I don't know
qualify
about
for
REIT
the
2 for the
purchasing
alternate.
water rights.
Well, I mean, it's
It's serving the
utilities.
same purpose, but it's so different
It's
it may
the
not
capital
qualify,
project.
That's right.
you know? REIT 2 is about
I'm just trying to
All
figure
about
out a way to
building.
make it happen.
Maybe we can look
It
at.
can't come out of general fund.
I don't think that.
Well, we don't have any money in general.
I don't
We
think
can't
that,
pay our wages,
Yeah.
let alone
I don't
take
think
money
that
out
is
of
the
general.
request. How about if, you just go through the other two?
Yeah, no, and
Yeah,
I.
I do have a question though, and before we move on, because as I'm looking at this, I'm also wondering about the Grand Mountain sub-area plan, right? And as I know that there's nothing been finalized there, but if there's a potential projected growth, if certain projects were to be moved forward with, and I'm just wondering, like thinking just long-term, right? And thinking about the, this piece and like how it connects to maybe the long-term planning also of that potential, right? And so I'm just trying to kind of connect the dots and wondering if that 200 acre feet will be enough for maybe that estimated potential growth, or will we be in a pickle 10, 20 years, 30 years from now because we don't have.
I believe the 200 acre feet, which is an approximation, we would have to nail down that exact number from working with our consultant once they bring in hydrogeologic modeling and everything, but I believe that one-time amount would cover the existing UGA, but if there were a potential UGA expansion later down the road, that could be a scenario where more acre feet would be purchased as mitigation down the line in the future.
Yeah, and to help address that, this sort of longer term water allocation that might be on the horizon, but isn't part of the plan today, looking at incorporating policies that allow for sort of a more expanded purchase, if that's the direction that the board wanted to take or Public Works wanted to take.
Could
to help
I or
mitigate.
a private individual buy, I don't know, 20 acre feet and just put it in your pocket? Or do you have, so a lot of times ecology steals it back from you if you don't use it. That's common.
So, I mean, this whole idea was actually brought to us by an individual farmer down in the Skookumchuck. And so there are definitely individual property owners looking into this potential opportunity to purchase water rights. However, it's a lot of administration for us. If you're only gonna buy 20 acre feet, there's a lot of work that goes into working with the Department of Ecology, doing all the necessary analysis and research. And I think for most folks, it doesn't pencil out if you're not looking at buying larger amounts.
Do we know that Ecology's gonna make this swap with us and get us out from under the reclaimed water and take the water rights?
Probably, but they'd probably also put special conditions into our permits. And that's something we have to negotiate. That's something that Centralia and Chehalis are negotiating right now.
Is the tribe involved in any of this purchase, or do they need any water rights for any of their tribal activities?
There's actually a study that is being done right now, funded through the stream flow restoration grant monies to look at sort of the allocation of water rights as part of this bank. I think the timeline for that study is probably next year. But that study is being done to help support whether they would move forward with any type of
Do
water
they
rights
legally
purchase.
need water rights? Do they need any water rights? Or do they just go ahead and, they're allowed to do certain things the rest of us can't do? So do they just say, I don't need any water rights, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z?
I don't know the answer
Who
to that
would know
question
that? I
personally.
mean, that we would move forward.
The Quinault tribe has expressed concern about the release schedule. In other words, when the water is released. They're asking the practical question, which is kind of like what you mentioned earlier. When are you gonna release the water to do the mitigation? Like suppose we buy it, that implies we're gonna put more water in the Skookumchuck River and less water in Prairie Creek. We're not gonna attempt to float fish up Prairie Creek. We're just gonna focus on Skookumchuck and Chehalis and on down. The tribe said, Quinault said in their comment letters about the feasibility study.
Now, you're saying Quinault, not Chehalis?
Quinault, okay, that's correct.
Because they're farther
True,
down.
they are, but they have.
They're down
interest
at the
in
end of
this.
the shales.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they
so,
care about what's going on upstream.
They own that one, yeah.
okay.
They had questions. I mean, they'd like to see the dam removed. And it doesn't look really feasible, and as long as the water bank exists and permits have been issued, it's hard to see how the dam could be removed. It really is a commitment to the dam going forward.
there was a study of whether or not it would be more beneficial to remove the dam, but you'd have to purchase the water rights
From who?
from the TransAlta.
For the whole body of water?
Yeah.
Which is kind of impractical.
Well, that was, it
Okay.
wasn't really so much that, it was just that all the people that need it, specifically Chehalis and Centralia, like without this option, they're in really bad shape. So that, to me, based on what I heard, was the main impediment to dam removal. It was gonna help fish to remove the dam, but, you know, it wasn't, an overwhelming data that shows it was, that it was gonna outweigh this, real bind that Chehalis and Centralia were in. I mean, it was, but yeah, once we start parceling it out, then you never be able to put it back in. There was an opportunity, right? Like, when it's all in one hand, one set of hands, if it really was better to remove the dam, then that would be the time. Once you start selling it off to different people, then it's never gonna get removed.
Do we want to move on to the next
Yeah,
option?
yeah.
Okay.
The second option for a scope of purchase could meet state mandated offsets in response to the Hearst decision and the Streamflow Restoration Act. Offsetting the entire basin's permit exempt wells, about 505 acre feet of water annually, could cost an estimated $1.7 million, but the board may consider purchasing a smaller amount of water depending on a variety of factors like geography or accounting for other streamflow projects completed in the basin. Funding is available for water rights purchased through Streamflow Restoration Act dollars on a competitive basis, and similar size water rights purchases in terms of volume and cost have been funded through grants. Yakima County and the Elwha Dungeness Watershed have both received monies for their projects. Streamflow restoration grant application deadlines have not been announced yet, though initial communication from the Department of Ecology suggests that applications may be due in January or February of 2024. The board previously reviewed and approved the TransAlta purchase as a viable approach to meet permit exempt offset requirements in RIAs 22 and 23 per resolution 16018, and staff is following up on the item today to inquire whether the board would like to pursue this project at this time.
Did you say Wyra 22 and 23?
RIA.
Upper Chehalis, Lower Chehalis.
That's related to the areas of the Hearst decision,
Okay.
Watershed area.
watershed.
Yeah.
When you say the entire basin, I mean, only a piece of that's in Thurston County, so
Yeah,
we would be purchasing and then that would benefit Grays Harbor and Lewis County?
yeah, there's an opportunity to purchase all of the water rights necessary to meet the numeric offset benefit for the entire basin. Now, there's other requirements like net ecological benefit that we would still need to meet, and each jurisdiction would be responsible for pursuing their own projects that created an ecological benefit. So it's not a total resolution of our Hearst obligations, but the water, the quantity is there. And we have the opportunity to say we can look at the whole basin, or we can look at just Thurston County geography or our most rapidly growing areas and narrow the focus or expand it depending on what we wanted to do.
And because, oh, sorry.
No, I was like, does that mean we could sell it to Grace Harbor for 7,000?
Oh, I would say because it's the best funding option, at least in our exploration, is a grant. And so actually partnering with our fellow jurisdictions that would benefit from this and applying for the grant might actually make us more competitive in getting it. And so that would probably be the approach.
To include the tribe possibly?
Potentially, yeah, I mean, for sure, we reached out to Department of Ecology to just figure out the timeline to make sure that, like, when should we be having these conversations with you all and moving forward? But the next steps would really be understanding, how to put the application together and putting together a corresponding applicant coalition. Any thoughts? No?
Well, if we can get, I was part of the Chehalis Streamflow whatever they call it, watershed planning. And this set of water rights, I think, was included in the plan as a key thing. So, I mean, I think we kind of obligated to go after it, because we said that this was good part of our plan for meeting the needs of the Hearst decision. Now, in terms of, I don't really want to be taking it on ourselves for the whole basin, but if we could partner with the other jurisdictions or just go after the portion that meets the Thurston County projected wells, that makes sense, I think.
And would we get money through a grant process, like a match? And we kick in money, or can we get everything through match money?
Yeah, what's realistic for this stream flow restoration grants?
So the projects that Ryan referenced, like the
The
more
Elway and
recent
Yakima.
grant allocations were for the entire purchase. I think the other side of that.
And the grant, how'd they get that grant? Did it come from ecology? Did it come from the state of Washington, feds?
Ecology grants,
Yeah,
the street flow restoration
So we
grant.
buy it from okay. We buy it from TransAlta because ecology says we have to, and then they give us the money?
that's pretty much, yeah.
Okay,
If
well,
we qualify,
if we
then
can
yeah.
pull that
Yeah.
off, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
That's a straight line that I haven't thought
Well,
about.
it's a pretty good business plan.
And we build partnerships with our fellow jurisdictions in the Chehalis Basin while we're at it, so that's the added bonus.
Stormwater qualify? No.
Well, I'd be wanting to put in for grant money tomorrow. Why wouldn't we do that?
Well, that,
Grant opportunity's not open yet.
It hasn't opened yet. But it
Well,
will.
I'd get it ready to
Yeah,
go.
get it
Yeah,
ready.
we're having ready
Water's
to
surface
go.
Surface water? No.
so it sounds like this one is a thumbs up for us to proceed. I mean, a lot of it is coming to you before we start engaging TransAlta. I mean, it's one thing putting together the grant application, it's another thing, you know, starting to work with the prosecuting attorney's office and developing the appropriate agreements with TransAlta. So that's why we want to make sure that we're checking in. Before we go down this
But I
road.
think before that, I think a financial plan needs to be jailed in terms of all the many different options. For instance, option number one, we have read this intended to deal with a reclaimed water facility. And perhaps REIT two may not be eligible to purchase water rights. So what will be the financial plan to option one? What will be the financial plan for option two? And what will be the financial plan for option three? You know, the unknown is the grants. That can be part of the financial plan, but I think the board needs to hear specifically before jumping to this opportunity, it's just seeing where the money's gonna come from.
But the number one, you know, it seems like we can't afford not to do it.
Yeah, I think that we're gonna do all those things you're saying, but to me, it seems like, well, let's get with it.
Cause we're under
You
the
know, I mean,
thumb for.
It's gonna take a
reclaiming.
while to
But
get
then
everything
what-
done.
Need to find the funding.
Yeah, it's the 690,000.
No, but I
Where the
mean,
money's
when
gonna
I say
come
get with it, find some money somewhere. Start the process of finding the
Okay.
money.
Now that I'm aware
ARPA?
that there's an option, we
But I
can
don't
start
want, I don't
working
want
on
you to pay for it.
Well, no, does ARPA qualify for it?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question
Well,
too.
we'll have to look at it.
Because, right, we had I mean, just think
sewer and water
the
would.
sewer and water, right?
Infrastructure.
We'll see if it qualifies under that particular, there's a list of programs that we have to see, that we can check on to see if it's eligible. If it's
Because-
eligible for one of those federal programs,
Great
then
question,
it's a
but that's
yes.
really
Yeah.
the intent of my request is to bring you a financial plan. Whether it's ARPA funds, whether it's general
Right.
fund.
It ain't gonna be
Whatever
general
fund.
fund.
Whether it's utility funds, you know,
I
all
don't
of
know
that
if
needs to be.
conservation futures
Yep,
is an
all that.
option. I mean, we can look at a number of things. I was not even aware this was coming forward though, so no
I-
opportunities to see.
Yeah, I think we need to know, one, like, what is our capacity, right? Like, what do we have available for something like this?
You got $4 million in rainy day fund.
That doesn't
Would
qual-
not qualify for this.
Well, it's quite an emergency if you don't have anything to drink.
So, I mean, a financial plan is part of our next steps, along with a risk assessment and checking in with the prosecuting attorney's office. You know, so I think all of that sounds great. And we really just wanted to make sure in the limited time we had, to just bring the opportunities in front of you so that we don't miss them. But I think timing wise, like we can have all those materials together.
To me, this whole thing is it's state sanctioned extortion or blackmail, whatever you wanna call it. And I don't like it, but I'm a realist, you know, I don't think we're gonna have a shootout over it. So I guess we gotta play ball with it.
A shootout.
You had,
There are some nuances to what Cody Duncan, the general manager at TransAlta's facility, said to me that might affect this discussion about money, particularly the timing of the money. He said that the first step would be to execute a joint letter of intent with the county. He did not mention earnest money or a deposit as being necessary, but he did say there had to be a signed joint letter of intent, and then we would apply to ecology. Ecology is almost certainly gonna have some conditions that go with issuing that permit. I don't see that we have to transfer any funds until after ecology issues the permit. In other words, we get a permit and then we pay TransAlta. If we don't get a permit, we don't have to pay them. In other words, it's,
Or we could get a grant to pay.
or we get a grant. So, you know, ecology's famous for long permit delays. 6 months to a year is not unusual at all for ecology to make up its mind. But we might buy ourselves some time by simply opening the dialogue.
With sending that letter. you're
With
referring.
TransAlta, get a letter of intent with some terms in that, and then talk to ecology.
I'm trying to think, why not? Why would we not wanna do that? Especially if it doesn't lock us in, why wouldn't we wanna send that letter tomorrow afternoon?
do we wanna
Ashley
review,
might not have it done by then, or what?
No.
do we wanna
yeah.
review option 3? I know that they have the next steps on there, kind of
Yeah.
like what, Kevin just went over. But do we wanna review option 3? I know we've kind of, I think the consensus from the board is that there is interest in
Well, yeah.
moving forward. But I
Great,
wanna
yeah.
allow you to go over option 3 and
So option 3 presents an opportunity for a long-term water allocation program that could be seeded by any purchase amount and represents an opportunity for the county to initiate a more hands-on approach to long-term management of water resources for a variety of applications, like planning for permit required mitigation on a greater than a 20-year planning horizon, which is what our capital facilities plan operates on. Or supporting land use goals affecting water availability in the county, including fostering interest in rural cluster development, which requires a Class A water system developers can have difficulty in obtaining water rights to, or projects encouraging sustainable agriculture, like irrigation improvements, ensuring irrigation water stays within a watershed, and drought relief. Long-term allocation approaches typically operate through establishing a water bank or operating with the Department of Ecology's Transfer Water Rights program directly by placement of water rights into trust. Water banks can offer improved flexibility and responsiveness for use of water rights after purchase, but both options are available for the board's consideration. Operating a water bank or working with Ecology's Transfer Water Rights program both come with administrative costs, and funding for these costs appears possible through a variety of state and federal grant programs. In addition, Thurston Conservation District has expressed interest in potentially partnering with the county in operation of a long-term water allocation program.
Is that it?
Yeah.
But anything we do, we gotta express an interest. I mean, it doesn't matter which option we pick, but we still need to express that interest. Probably sooner than later.
Yeah, Cody Duncan actually said to me, he said, I think if you wanted 500 to 750 acre feet, we just threw that out there as a straw man. He said, I think that would be large enough to make it worth my time to run up the flagpole with my management. In other words, he sounded like it's not his main business. He doesn't want to do it unless it's big enough. So, anyway.
So, and that's the first step moving forward is really that general scope. In terms of figuring out if we are gonna continue conversations with Cody or someone else representing TransAlta. What kind of scope are we talking about?
For me, I think those items are not in the chronological right order. I believe that establish a joint letter with intent should be the first thing. I mean, I don't think we ought to study it for 6 months and identify a general scope of purchase, how we're gonna do it. That could take forever. Just send the letter. Okay, then we got that done. I don't know,
Yeah,
that's my thought right up front. Why would you wait?
Commissioner Menzer?
Well, what are you asking me?
Oh, no,
any
it's like,
questions?
do you have any questions, comments? I know Commissioner Edwards is on the, we should send a letter of intent.
I mean, especially if it's not binding, what's it hurt?
Well, when you just threw out that number, Kevin, you said 500 or 700 acre-feet. What is that? Is that option, is that all the options, or is that just?
That was before we
can't remember.
calculated what the
That's
size
in
would
between
be.
option one and option two.
Yeah.
That'd be
That
one
was
and
just a
two.
talking point to get the conversation. He said, well, how much water do you want? And his point seemed to be, if it was a tiny amount of water, it wasn't worth his time.
Yeah.
He said that seemed like enough water to get him interested.
Yeah, and in terms of like doing a lot of additional research, I think it was really just this general scope. Like there are 3 options up here that have pretty broad ranges, different potential funding mechanisms. And so we just wanted to get the level of comfort, you know,
Right, that's the
between-
thing. I'm all for number 3 if there's a way to pay for it, but that's not something that.
that is
I
the,
don't know where money for that would come
Well,
from. I don't know. There is no money for that. You know, these other things, we kind of need to do them find the money because they're gonna offset other money we're gonna be on the hook for if we don't. Number 3 is more just like, yeah, that'd be a nice thing to have in your
On our
back
wish
pocket.
list.
But like, I'm gonna have to see, you know, some money from somewhere else, cause I'm not gonna squeeze any money out of, you know, turnip to get number 3
Yeah.
funded.
But has there been any interest expressed by some of the big boys back east that have these investment deals that are going together? They're buying water rights for banking, and they're doing it all through the western United States. Are they not interested in this? I mean,
He said he'd gotten a few phone calls, but no serious interest, other than the cities of Centralia and Jayhawk.
they were talking about regulation to put it in place to stop some of that. I don't know, maybe that's what happened. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal all over the West.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you heard the news story about people buying water rights in Arizona to ship hay to Saudi Arabia, you know?
Just, yeah, crazy stuff. There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but it is there. It's a reality. It's being allowed somehow. I don't know. I'm all for sending the letter. I don't know what the rest of it is. I don't have enough detail for the rest of it.
So I might add to that by saying that the first step on this slide, identified general scope of purchase, is what we're asking the board to make a decision on in response to today's presentation. Do we want to approach TransAlta with a joint letter of intent for options 1 or 2 or 3, or all 3 options? And identify a number that we can start to approach them with and then take to ecology for further analysis, at which time we would.
I didn't get that there was a number affiliated with it. You just said it was a letter of intent of interest, I thought.
Well, interest to purchase.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
right.
But if the board has an interest to purchase, then you need to identify where the money's coming from.
Yeah,
Because
we're gonna come from grants and ecology and
Well,
other
that's the-
areas of
whether-
extortion.
That's the conversation that you need to have. If the letter of intent is to purchase water rights, you know, if you wanna take the risk that you're gonna be finding grants down the road, that's really your purview.
Well, then I think we need a financial plan to be
Right.
presented then. I mean, I think there is a consensus from the board that we're interested, right? I think what Commissioner Menzer stated is right. We're option 1 and 2, it kind of, we need it, right? It's a matter of need rather than want. And the option 3 is more of a want. Like, I think, I mean, for me, like, it sounds really appealing, right, to have that at our availability, but if we don't have the funding for it. So I think we do need to have, I think there is an interest. I think we do want to go to that next step, but I do think that we do need a financial plan if we're gonna be, to let us know how much we can actually purchase. Whether it's, you know, if there is a grant availability, when is that grant going to become available and when can we apply? If it is through ARPA or it is through another
Submission
fund.
Features, I think,
Right,
I think
right.
it
We need
requires
to
a little
look at our
time
funds.
to really look at the potential funding sources that you can consider.
And so I think just getting that financial plan in place will let us know like how much we can actually give us an idea of like, okay, maybe we can only stick with option 1 and 2 because we don't have a resource from anywhere else, or maybe ARPA does qualify and conservation features, and maybe we can go for option 3 and, you know, that would be great, but
Or part of it.
a part of it, right?
I would need to know if, if the board needs to kind of, for step 1, identify scope of purchase, we need to identify a number. I need to know how to handle option 2, because I don't really feel, I feel weird about acquiring water rights to mitigate for the entire basin as Thurston County. But, you know, obviously, if somebody's giving me the money for free, maybe that's a non-issue, but if it's coming from any county-connected source, then I don't think we should be doing that. So the question is, in this initial phase of this joint request, how do we tackle that? Not losing the opportunity to help the whole basin. Do we need the partnerships, and do we need to make phone calls to Grays Harbor and Lewis right now and confirm that they want to do something like this? Or can we just throw it out there as like, this is what we think we're gonna do, like, but keep it vague and flesh it out later? Just, I need your guys'
Yeah.
suggestion, because I can't say how many acre feet I want you to go for if I don't know how we're gonna handle that option 2 piece.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Whatever, whatever, it may be just whatever TransAlta is comfortable with, or Ecology. I'm not sure who's the person that has to be satisfied here.
Maybe the financial plan will tell you that perhaps it's a modified option 1.
Yeah.
That you can go beyond the 200 acre feet.
Yeah, to plan for Grand Mountain's future.
Right, exactly.
Kevin?
Are we at liberty to propose a plan which includes increasing permit desk fees to pay for the permit exempt piece of it?
No,
I don't think you can, I don't think you can ask that question at this stage.
but that might be something
Too
that
early for
develops
that.
further down the
If-
road.
If that is a financial plan the staff wants to propose, but I don't think that question
That's what
should
you
be
were
appropriate
saying,
at this
to
point.
Yeah,
suggest,
but
right?
I mean, for farther down the road,
yeah, I think
that's the idea.
those kinds of
Make
ideas.
the
and-
recovery
sorry.
after we've made the investment.
Yeah, I think that those end up, if you're gonna see some of those ideas reflected, it's really gonna be with option 3, where, you know, it is not as clear that there are grant funds available or that there have been money set aside. But if you really do wanna seize the opportunity, here's some creative ideas that we have. But
To be like the backstop, if you were like, right?
I mean, the intent of option 3 is that, you know, the county potentially purchases these water rights, but that they would be sold to a developer that wants to do a cluster development and set aside land for agriculture or forestry, but they just don't have access to a small amount of water rights to support that community A water system. And so it puts the county in a position where they are transferring water rights to future developers and would potentially get those costs covered, but it's in the future. You don't know when it's gonna happen,
No.
so.
So $2,750 will get you an 1 acre foot. Forever? Per year, forever?
Mhm.
Is that the way it's written up, forever, or is it a 100-year lease, or?
When I looked at the Shayla Centralia agreement, it's in perpetuity.
Now,
and there-
some of the farmers that I know that slacked off on farming, they keep track of your field if it's green through satellite photos or something, and so they don't have, if you don't use it, you lose it. Is there some stipulation in here that, okay, we buy this, and do we lose it because we didn't use it in a time period, has to be used within?
Two-part answer. In the case of the permit required mitigation for the system, that's built into the expansion plan of the Grand Mountain system, so it's protected under the municipal exemption. In the case of the permit exempt wells, that's considered perpetual, forever use, if you will. So to me, the offset is implied to be perpetual, and it matches the terms of this perpetual buy. Other uses are not protected in those ways.
Is there any kind of, I'm sorry,
Okay.
timeline is like this offer only available through this date or, you know,
Yeah,
anything
only
like
this
that?
weekend you
Yeah.
can.
On sale.
Exactly.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the two timelines that we're looking at aren't necessarily related to Trans Alta's water bank. They're more linked to the requirements to mitigate for the Grand Island water system by 2025 and the grant cycle for the stream flow restoration grants. Those are our sort of two.
Has word,
Purchase options not got a deadline at this point.
Nope, as long as
has
it
word went out to the
available.
public about this?
It's
They're
I
not-
mean, it's been out, so if you just Google it, it shows up on a lot of the water rights. You know, I didn't even realize that there were websites for selling water rights, like.
I mean,
you
I'm just
find
wondering,
websites
like the
selling houses.
Rochester Water Company, just as an example, I don't even know if that's the right name, but might they be interested in buying 100 acre feet or something? I don't know. I'm just curious.
I don't know.
He said, there's nobody, I said, are they rushing the gate here? Are people trying to get this? He said, gotten a few calls, but that's it. He did not make it sound like there was any urgency.
So could we maybe negotiate with them and say, hey, you haven't sold anything at 2750, how about 1495? 1499.
Half price? There's-
Uh,
I will say the conservation districts, both Lewis and Thurston Conservation District had, an initial interest. However, it's a big administrative lift for a small conservation district, even if it's partnering with another one to handle the administrative side of operating a water bank or.
It probably doesn't cost any more though to do the administration of buying 100 acre feet than for 1,000 acre feet, does it?
No, it's that initial sort of like getting it set up, working with the Department of Ecology, the resources needed, and the county's just in a much better position to do that because we have folks on our staff like Kevin and Brian and Aaron that can navigate those processes.
Okay, so then I just want to go ahead and clarify the next steps. Is there a possibility that we can let Transalta know that not a formal letter with an amount, but that there is an interest for us to go to that next step and basically more information forthcoming? And then once a financial plan is in place, right, that way we don't lose our spot in line.
I think we're the only one on that so far.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, I agree,
But, and then after that, right, we can go over a financial plan, and then from that point on, we can discuss really what is the amount, right? And it can't be less than 500 because they already said they wouldn't be interested in it. So what range is it that we're going to be at, that we actually have the financial capacity to move forward with? And, maybe it is a partnership with the rest of us, but I think we need to know what we can do first. And because if we don't have that, then get everyone's excitement up and then come back and but is that all right? Is that what the board understands to be the next steps, or is there an additional next step that the board would like to see in this process?
I'm good, just the way you laid it out.
I know in the case of option one, when we did meet with Ecology, they were very receptive to the proposal, but they were checking with their attorney general to ensure that there's no legal barriers, and we don't foresee there being any legal barriers. But once we do get the go-ahead from them in terms of that amount, the 200 acre feet was a conservative estimate from our consultants, so then that's when we conduct that study to determine exactly how many acre feet would provide at least as much mitigation as that original agreement.
Okay.
So all that to say, your financial plan will also come with more detailed information. We didn't necessarily want to send folks out to do all that research if there wasn't an interest. This doesn't really fall under our normal docket project.
Can you stop sharing? Yes.
Okay. Any additional comments, questions?
Very good briefing.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
3:55, we are adjourned.